Back at home, we decided to eat our burgers by the tree. Too bad we didn't take some of that Vive to go, Aurora called as I headed to the kitchen for napkins. Champagne and McDonald's would be a fitting end to this epic day. Ah, but your wish is my command, I said, making my way back with another bottle and turning off lights as I went until the only illumination came from the tree. We had a bunch of this for a party a couple years ago, and there were 2 bottles left. We can't open the other bottle. Save it for when you have something to celebrate. I plunked it down on the coffee table along with a pair of squat juice glasses. Champagne flutes were too fiddly for me, and I'd done my time with one earlier. 1, we can do whatever we want. 2, if surviving your mother and Sarah's parents and my daughter, God bless her, isn't something to celebrate, what is? Good point. I popped the cork and poured, and we clinked our glasses. I took a gulp. This stuff was not bad at all. Heaved a sigh, and slumped against the back of the Chesterfield. What an exhausting day. I felt like I'd played the entire game short a man. Aurora had not leaned back along with me. She was still perched on the edge of her seat. Thanks for all that, at my mom's. Thanks for all that here earlier. I picked up my Big Mac and took a bite. My stomach rumbled in appreciation. She unwrapped her cheeseburger and finally sat back, but she twisted to face me. Yeah, sorry about the starvation. The all turkey dinner really is something, huh? I turned to face her too, and we ate in silence, looking at each other as we chewed. Olivia had been playing with the setting on the tree lights, and they were blinking in a complex pattern that was reflected on Aurora's face. She looked like I didn't even know, but I was suddenly suffused with gratitude that she'd come into my life. I felt like Scrooge being visited by a ghost who had turned his life around. When I finished my Big Mac, I leaned forward to grab some fries. Olivia's present to Aurora was on the table, and I gestured toward it and snickered. Sorry about the figurine. I will treasure it always, she said deadpan. Ha! No, I actually will. It will remind me of you guys and the time we spent together. That pulled me up short, and I froze with a fry halfway to my mouth. It was strange to imagine my life without Aurora in it. Not good strange. All those ghosts left Scrooge once they'd done their thing, right? She yawned. I didn't want the evening to be over. So, what's the deal with you and ballet and your mother? You said it was a long story, and now I picked up my champagne. We've got nothing but time. We could stay up all night talking if we wanted to, and I kinda did. I gather your mother was not pleased when you quit ballet. She was not, but I could see the writing on the wall. I had to face the fact that I wasn't good enough. I was good, but not good enough, and before you say anything, I wasn't going to say anything. Usually, this is the part of the story where people go, "Oh no, I'm sure you were great." It sucks, but sometimes in elite sports, people just aren't good enough. I thought about some of the great players I'd shared the ice with over the years. You don't get to the NHL without seeing most of your colleagues at every level fall away. I guess the thing is to remember that while it might be true that you weren't good enough, it's not a moral statement. She cocked her head. What does that mean? You weren't good enough to make it at the highest levels. Fine. That doesn't mean you aren't good. It's not a personal moral failing. She raised her eyebrows like what I'd said surprised her, but pleased her too. The thing was, I might have been good enough. I had a few physical things to overcome, but I couldn't hack it emotionally. Oh, shoot. Well, I stand by what I said. It's still not a moral failure, and honestly, if the people in New York were anything like your mother, I'm not surprised. They were worse, she said with a mirthless laugh. Well, that's not fair. Some of them individually were good, but the system, it wasn't good for me anyway. What physical things did you have to overcome? Maybe I was getting too nosy, but I was pleasantly surprised by how easily she was telling the story, and I didn't want her to stop. Wait. I couldn't stay thin enough. I could get there, but I couldn't maintain it. What was there? 105 is what they wanted my so-called ceiling to be. Holy shit. I don't think it's physiologically impossible for a grown woman of your height to maintain that weight. That's not an emotional failure. I also kept fracturing my toe. It's a common thing, so common that the particular break is sometimes called a dancer's fracture. I think I did it 4 times in 2 years. We had a doctor on staff, but he was on vacation that last time, so I went to a walk in clinic. The doctor there treated me, but she asked all these questions, and she told me I was malnourished and said that's why I keep breaking my toe. She said I was going to keep re injuring myself if I didn't eat more. Jeez, I understood training regimen, but who were these people? I had stopped getting my period. Actually, the really screwed up part is that when I started school, I was getting it, and I wanted it to stop because I viewed its absence as a badge of my dedication. Lots of the other girls weren't getting theirs, but when this doctor asked about it, she treated it like a big deal. It kind of freaked me out. Malnourished. That's quite a word. She sighed and stopped talking. I wanted to keep prompting her, but I didn't know if I should. She pulled her legs up and kind of curled in on herself, but she resumed talking. The next day after class, I was cleaning up my feet. Point shoes are hard on feet, and I was so hungry I was dizzy. I asked my roommate, "Why do we do this to ourselves?" She said, "Because we love it." I roomed with this girl I'd gone through training with here in Minnesota. She was kind of mean. Well, not kind of, she was mean. So then I asked someone else, a girl I was friendly with and who was a decent human being, and she said a variation on the same thing. And then I thought, she trailed off. "You didn't love it like they did," I said gently, wanting to spare her the telling. "I didn't," she confirmed, her tone infused with sadness. "I loved some parts of it. I still love dancing. I just didn't love ballet enough to keep hurting myself. And it hurt, and not only physically." "I know," I whispered. It hurt me to hear this. It made me want to rage when I thought of all that had been done to Aurora, not just back then with the weight stuff and the broken bones, but today when she was so clearly still dealing with the fallout. I'm sorry. I quit about a week later, came home and had a fight with my mom, and she made this big speech about all the time and money I was wasting by quitting. This all went down on the doorstep of a house I grew up in. She said she was done investing in me. She always used the word like I was a mutual fund or something. She called me a coward. Are you fucking kidding me? I wanted to go back to Heather Evans' house and give her a piece of my mind. It's the opposite. Turning your back on all that, having the foresight to recognize that what was happening to you was unsustainable, defying your mother, that was brave. She smiled, a really big one that took my breath away. We were silent as she finished her burger. I slowed down on my fries so I could offer her some. She waved them away. "Do you think I should try to get a different job like my mom says?" "I'm not talking about this job." She gestured between us. "But Miss Miller's. In some ways, my mom is right. I'm not exactly killing it on the career achievement front." I was both flattered and stressed that she was asking me. Flattered that she thought highly enough of me to ask for my opinion, but stressed because I had no idea how to answer. "Do you like teaching at Miss Miller's?" "I do. You probably don't know this, but it's much more chill than your average dance studio. I never imagined teaching again. I really owe Gretchen for helping me find my way back to dance. I just don't know if working for Gretchen the rest of my life is enough." "What would you do if you could do anything?" "I don't know," she said quickly. So quickly it seemed like she was deflecting. "Well, don't overthink it. First answer that comes to mind." She answered right away, which made me think I'd been right about the deflecting. "Well, this is new, but since I started teaching ballet, once I got over my fear of it, I realized I've missed it. Lately, I've started thinking, you know what would be cool? Teaching ballet to adults. Not because they want to become ballerinas, just because they want to dance. If you get away from the quest for perfection, there's a lot of things ballet can offer." I could see this. She was such a good teacher. "What are those things?" Again, she had answers at the ready. "Balance, concentration, strength, endurance, plus it's fun. Well, it hasn't been fun for me, not historically, but I think it could be." "Is that a question?" She laughed. "No, it could be fun." She screwed up her face. "I think. Is there a way you can teach ballet that focuses on the things you like and leave the rest behind?" See, the problem is, I'm not sure how marketable it would be. Isn't the whole point of ballet, at least non professional ballet, that it's for little girls who want to do it because of the tutus? Does that have to be bad, though? Olivia always gets excited when it's time to shop for dance clothes for the next level. Dance clothes are so often tied into all the other garbage, though body shaming and, the creation of an army of disordered eaters. Not at Gretchen's, but you know what I mean. Anyways, it's a moot point. Who wants to do ballet with no recitals? Nothing you're working toward. You might be surprised. No contact hockey leagues are cropping up everywhere. A lot of people would have said there's no point in hockey without checking and fighting, but a lot of people feel differently. Anyway, there has to be something inherently of worth in all these sports or pastimes, doesn't there? Otherwise, why would they have been invested in the first place? Strip away all the context, and what do you have? What do you have in hockey? She leaned forward, studying my face. You have a kid skating on a bumpy pond, the air cold and sharp in his lungs, the thrill of speed and precision. Sometimes you get this sense of, I don't know how to say it, rightness, I guess? Not to sound too woo woo, but like you're where you're supposed to be, in sync with the universe. You have. Whoa. She'd kept leaning forward as I talked, and now her face was only a couple inches from mine, and she was staring at my lips. Are we about to kiss? Shit, I should have kept that question in my head, because if we were about to kiss, which I suddenly very much wanted us to be doing a play by play was a surefire way to scare her off. It didn't, though. It made her smile. It seems like a pleasant and low stakes thing to do. Low stakes? I couldn't stop looking at her lips. They were pink and plump and a little bit chapped. I felt chapped too, like my whole self was raggedy and in need of soothing. Like she, with her soft hands and her chapped lips, was the only person in the world who could do that soothing. I almost rolled my eyes at myself. Over dramatic much? I needed to get out of my own head. Which didn't help. All it did was remind me that I was incredibly turned on, and all she was doing was talking really close to my face. It had been a long time, and she was a bright thing. I wasn't sure I agreed about the low stakes thing, though. Well, she said, you're a hockey star, and I'm a glorified nanny. That seems pretty low stakes. I'm not a star, and you're not a nanny. I tried to surreptitiously rearrange myself so she wouldn't notice the effect she was having on me, and forced my gaze up from her lips to her eyes. I needed to think of a better comparison than mud for their color, but to be fair, I didn't mean it as a bad thing. They were a gorgeous gray brown. Maybe there was some kind of horse comparison for her eyes. Bay, chestnut. I didn't know anything about horses. I leaned in a little more to try to get a closer look. Right. You're, what did you call it? Reliable stay at home defenseman. And I'm the person who drives your kid around and lives in your basement. Sorry, what? I snapped myself out of my eye color trance. She grinned. The mud eyes went all twinkly. I'm just saying, the stakes are what we make them. If we kissed, which I kind of can't believe I'm even suggesting, it would not have to be a big deal. What would it be? I was pretty sure my eyes were twinkling too. I could feel them doing it, which I knew was impossible, but it was happening. Being this turned on but also this light-hearted made for an interesting combination. Maybe she was right about the low stakes. I hadn't had any low stakes intimacy for a very long time. Maybe I never had, since even when I'd been having supposedly casual sex before Sarah, I'd always get myself tied up in knots wondering if the woman would be sleeping with me if I weren't a hockey player. Not that we were talking about sex, she'd said kissing, which honestly was about all I could handle right now. Aurora repeated my question. What would it be? She got even closer, so close I could feel her breath. She was almost talking against my lips as she suggested an answer for her own question. A nice way to end a shitty day? I licked my lips and I tried to be non subtle about it. Part of me still thought this was a mistake, but a larger part of me didn't care. Yeah, it would be. Not a big deal, she repeated. It can just be a little deal. A blip. Temporary Christmas insanity. I chuckled. So are we doing this then? She asked. Yeah, I said, we're doing this, and I closed the rest of the distance between us.